Hey, it's Clay at claytrader.com. This will be my top 10 stocks as we head into Thursday, December 8th. This will be a technical analysis breakdown. So if you're somebody that uses charts within your trading, or maybe you're just interested in learning more about charts and how they can be used as a tool to help make good decisions as a trader, this will be a video for you. Real quick, a couple clarification points. Number one, the price you see over here will be moving around and changing. And then the candlestick you see right there will also be moving around and changing. That is because the market is still open for a small amount of time. And I like to do these videos when the market is still open because sometimes we can capture some really interesting late day price movement. And then second, I'll be using the 30-minute time frame, meaning each one of these candlesticks here, as they're called, represents 30 minutes worth of time. Stock number one here, SMMT. And we basically have a case of deja vu because as I talked about in yesterday's video, and to reiterate, the idea, the philosophy of a watch list is to find unique, to find interesting situations and not randomly rush out and buy anything, but to watch and observe and see if the price ultimately does behave in a way that fits your personal risk tolerance, your personal strategy. And as I talked about yesterday, there wasn't really anything to work with, but I said, keep an eye on it and let's see if another pattern forms. And wouldn't you know it, look at this beautiful, beautiful bull pennant that formed. And then late afternoon, right there, got the breakout, and then up it went from there. So that's exactly what I'm talking about. There's a lot of action on Tuesday, and then today, good action, got a great pattern, and then you could take advantage of it there. Same thing right now. Is there really anything that you can do with it? I mean, not really, because it's once again broken out. It's, up towards the highs. So it's just once again a wait and see situation. Now, I do want to adjust this level up, and because that resistance has now been broken, foundational rule that would tend to act as support. So if you're some sort of pullback player, then I could see you being interested at $2.35. But if you're not a pullback player, then once again, you're just going to have to sit back and see if this thing gives you some sort of pattern. If it, pulls back a little bit, well, then at that point, you could have a situation where you have a downwards channel, you have a nice move up, and you'd have yourself a nice little bull flag pattern there. But at the core, the key baseline here is that there is a lot of action, there is a lot of movement. So for that reason, in and of itself, worth at least watching and keep an eye on, especially if you like stocks down in this price range. Next one, CVNA, an absolute beat down, and it's been a beat down, but it just got that much worse here. And in my mind, what is interesting here is, and this applies to any trading, but specifically in these sorts of setups, if you're not disciplined, if you don't use stop losses, if you don't know what a stop loss is, again, you shouldn't even be trading, but that's a whole nother video. But you better be disciplined because while these can certainly be very, very profitable, if you don't, if you're not disciplined, they can really spin out of control quickly. But we're moving forward right here at $3.53. Very, very interesting level because you could have some potential double bottom formation here where you have bottom number one. And if the price were to come back down here again, do you get bottom number two before the price then gets a nice bounce upwards? No such thing as a guarantee. And just because it bounced previously back here, of course, does not mean it'll bounce again if only trading were that easy. But my point here is it becomes plausible. It's a reasonable thought to have, okay, what's bounced from there before, I think could bounce again. So you could set a tight stop. And then, if you do get a bounce, then your reward, your upside movement is going to be much greater than what you're ever potentially risking in the first place, just in case, no, it's not a double bottom and it continues to bleed to the downside. So if you're disciplined, if you like to play double bottoms, keep an eye on this one. Next one, RNAZ, very nice pattern here. And let me be very clear, I'm not trying to press you. I'm not trying to imply that I'm the only person to see this pattern. In fact, the exact opposite. I assure you a lot of other people are watching this pattern. And I say all that because when a lot of people are watching the same levels and wondering the same thing, call it a self-fulfilling prophecy, call it whatever you want, it can certainly produce some very dynamic movement. So let's get this pattern here drawn into play. So the first part of the pattern is going to be this resistance trend line right there. Next part of the pattern is going to be this area of support down there, and let me change that to green to represent more so the bullish area of the pattern, and then maybe make this a bit easier to see, make it all one color. So again, we have our resistance, we have our support, we have the big momentum move up like that. Let's put our golf hole down here to make it a little bit more visual, and we have ourselves a good solid bull pennant pattern. So when you got a lot of people watching the same area, nothing guaranteed, but is it plausible to think that if the price comes up here and breaks up through the top part of that pattern that people are going to be buying, well, just because it's breaking out? Yeah, that's a plausible, conclusion that could happen right there. So if you like to play penny stocks, if you like to play bull pennant patterns, here you go. Next one, AMC, and it just continues to bleed further and further downwards. And first reiteration point that I talked about yesterday was up here at 705. Talked about that being an area of resistance. And yes, during that opening 30 minutes, you can see the price got up around that area. Did temporarily get over it slightly, but that didn't last very long. And then back down below the resistance it went. So completely got rejected and then is now pushing the low. So again, Just not a good day. And I'm going to go ahead and adjust this area of resistance down as we have more of a nearer term level now right there at $6.60. So 660 will be that first key level of resistance. If the price does try to level off and then come back up, that'll be that first initial question of mark, of can the price actually break above it and stay above it. As far as levels of support are concerned, got to squeeze things down because as you're seeing now, the price is starting to head into further territory where it has not been for a very, very long time, with the next key area of support now being down there at $5.85. You can see 585 was the bottom part of this pattern that formed right there before the big breakout right there. And that's coming from, let's see, I'm just curious, back there in early November. So like I said, we're talking about multiple weeks ago, 585, next key level of support. If the price breaks through there, then at that point, you're starting to really threaten potentially going right back to where all this started, which would not be a good sign. Next one, NIO, and not a whole lot has been happening. Now, yes, granted, I realize that on a day-to-day basis, of course, the price is fluctuating up and down, but when you take a step back and look at things from more of a bigger picture point of view, for the past several days, it's literally just been stuck between this sideways channel. Now, we have a couple of, we have that one data point right there, and we have that one data point down there. So we have one where it was below the channel, one where it was above the channel. But if you look at those just canceling each other out, then very closely the price has just been respecting these couple levels here. So it's really just continued sideways channel pattern, and it's a question of who's ultimately going to win out. As far as the channel pattern is concerned, I'm actually going to make a little adjustment now that we have more data. Going to adjust that slightly upwards there to the top part of the channel being 1325. So top of the channel resistance 1325, bottom of the channel support down there at $12, which kind of got close today, not really. But point being, it's continues to hold. But yeah, just a lot of upwards and sideways movement here. But with that, going back to the idea of self-fulfilling prophecies, you got to think that a lot of people out there have noticed both of these levels. So depending on which way the price breaks, that in and of itself could create a self-fulfilling prophecy. So definitely keep an eye on this sideways channel. Real quickly, I want to take a break and personally invite you to get signed up for this free live online training that I'm offering here very soon. So if you've been enjoying what you've seen and you want to learn more about this tool, how it can and should be used to build consistency as a trader, then I want you to get signed up for the free live class. If you're watching on YouTube, there's a link down in the description box. If you're watching at my site, there's an area right there on the webpage that you can click to get signed up. So like I said, if you've been enjoying what you've seen, then definitely get signed up for the free live training. Next one, CCL, which has been in a pretty rough beatdown right now, but now starting to get towards some interesting levels. Still got a ways to go, but again, when it goes back to levels that, are these, fantastic discoveries on my end? Absolutely not. But this area down here, in my opinion, a lot of people are watching it right down around $8.50. You can see, actually you can't see that because it's behind my ugly mug. Let me move that out somewhere. There we go. So you can see right here that there is some support right there. There is some support. And so it's still got a ways to go. But point here being is, until it gets down there, it's essentially in no man's land, because you look here and there just simply aren't any other data points. There's not any other things that suggest where it could potentially bounce. Now, of course, that means, it could bounce at any area, but in some senses, it'd be a complete gamble because you're just if you're randomly picking a spot. But down here around 850 is not random, again, because you have a couple of other data points where it has bounced before. So if you like to play these deeper pullbacks, 850 is an interesting level. If the price does try to turn around and bounce, then that main area of resistance is going to be right here at that trend line right there, which puts the resistance right up there around $9.15. Next one, TSLA, Tesla, my good friend, and the downtrend continues. First key update, just based on that rule, it states when levels of support are broken and closed below, they tend to act as resistance. So going into the day, level right there at the 177.50 mark was support, was resistance, but with the price breaking down below it, would now be considered that area of resistance if this move continues, which the last 30 minutes here, you can see a nice little green candle forming. So if that continues, can it break up through that level? That'll be the question mark moving forward. But in terms of levels of support, this is where things, at least in my mind, get that much more interesting, because check out this level right here at the 172 mark. You go back here, you can see 172 was the low of that gap down right there. Fast forward to today, and a whole bunch of times the price, to give credit where credit's due, did a fantastic job of holding above 172. And while nothing is guaranteed, is it plausible to think that if the price comes down to 172 and breaks down through it, that break could create just that much more selling pressure? In my mind, that is certainly a very realistic outcome. Not guaranteed, but realistic. So that's what I'll be most interested in personally, is 172 and what happens if the price does go down to that area again. Next one, AMZN, Amazon, been getting beat down clearly, but with some sideways movement here. Maybe, just maybe, this is some sort of bottom here that's finally forming. It put in a little bit of a lower low compared to Tuesday, but nothing drastic. And I wish I could say that just because the price has gotten beat down and then started to go sideways slightly, that, oh, for sure guaranteed this is the bottom. Doesn't quite work like that. But as I've said, does it now become a little bit more plausible? Does it become, actually reasonable to think that, okay, maybe, just maybe, this is some sort of bottom? Absolutely. And going back to what I started off the video saying, that's what a watch list is all about. Not just rushing out and buying something, but finding unique situations and watching and seeing how they continue to behave. So by default, if this is some sort of bottom, well, then this area of support down here at 87.50 is going to need to continue to hold. But so far, so good. You can see price spent a whole lot of time down around that level, and it did indeed hold strong. If the price does try to get a bounce in the upwards direction, then the main area of resistance at that point is going to be that area right around there, which sits, give or take, around the $91 mark. So yeah, definitely an interesting scenario, especially when you consider Amazon's a relatively popular stock. So got some sideways movement. Is this some sort of bottom? Let's see what happens. Next one here, MMAT, and this is a very tricky chart to talk about from a presentation standpoint because it's all about perspective. What do I mean by that? Well, if you're some sort of day trader, flipper, scalper, and you bought right there, maybe you bought right there and your plan was to buy and sell within, 13 minutes. Well, then yes, from that perspective, the chart looks really, really bad because there was this big pullback here, which you can see right here, a very clear downwards channel. However, if you care about the bigger picture point of view, you have to factor in the entire context. So by factoring in the entire context, you have to ask yourself, well, what was occurring before this downwards channel? Well, you had the price make a huge move in the upwards direction. So what I've just constructed from a technical pattern perspective is actually a bull flag pattern. Now, just because something's bullish does not mean that for sure the price is going to continue going up. But my core point here is that while sure I understand, and depending on the perspective, as I said, this can feel like the end of the world. It can be terrible. When you factor in the entire context, all that's led to now is a bull flag pattern. So if you like to play bull flags, if you like to play stocks down below $5, keep an eye on it. Next one here, TQQQ, which is an ETF that allows you to track the NASDAQ. So if you believe that the NASDAQ market as a whole is going to rise, then you could buy this one at a much lower price point, which is what I think, and why it's such an, one of the most popular ETFs out there. But I probably should have put this one after Amazon because same general idea. Yes, this thing has been beaten down. So I'm going to go through this quickly. But yes, this thing has been beaten down. Yes, this thing has now started to go sideways a bit. Does that mean that for sure guaranteed this is the bottom? No. Is it plausible now to think that, okay, maybe, just maybe, this is some sort of bottom? Absolutely, especially when you have this dynamic here occurring where you have a little miniature upwards trend that has started. Now, don't get me wrong, that could be wiped away very, very quickly, but the point here being is it's rational. Case in point, if the price was just dropping, I'm sitting here saying, hey, look, this could be the bottom. You'd be 100% justified to say, what are you talking about, Clay? Based on what? But in this situation, not only has it started to go sideways, but it's got the little upward slope to it. So worth at least keeping an eye on from that angle. Let me change that to green to represent the support dynamic. So that's, some potential, leading indicators there of maybe a bounce that's coming. If it does bounce, then it's still all about that level up there at 21.35, which I've talked about previously. But yes, if you enjoy ETFs and you enjoy high volume ETFs, definitely keep an eye on this one. So that wraps up the top 10. Again, if you like what you saw here, then I want you to get signed up for the free training. Like I said, it'll be very soon, Thursday, December 8th at 7 p.m. Eastern time. So I hope to see you there. As far as these top 10 videos are concerned, if you enjoy these, please do two things for me. Hit the like button, leave a comment. Tell me what you traded today. Tell me what you're watching tomorrow. But those things communicate to me that you enjoy. And as long as I know people are enjoying, I will continue to put in the time and effort to create these videos for you. So again, get signed up for that class. Hit the like button, leave a comment below. Thanks for watching. Take care. Have a good one.